Welcome back. Today, we're diving into the world of Stoicism, a practical philosophy that has guided countless people towards a balanced life. We're going to explore 5 key Stoic exercises that could transform the way you approach life. Let's dive in. Implementation Intention Exercise. This exercise is based on Marcus Aurelius's philosophy regarding mental weaknesses, which includes tendencies such as being antisocial, refusing self-forgiveness, not speaking from the heart, and falling for unnecessary fancy. Begin by identifying one mental weakness that you often struggle with. For instance, if you find it hard to speak from the heart because you're always trying to please people, focus on this aspect. At the start of the day, write an implementation intention note to yourself. This note should detail a particular behavior you intend to work on. For example, whenever I feel the impulse to please people, I will resist acting immediately on it. Monitor your progress. Keep a record of how many times a week you felt the need to please others and how many times you were able to resist the impulse. It's okay if you don't succeed every time. The goal is to see the problematic behavior reduce in frequency over time. Understand that the process of change takes time. Don't be harsh on yourself if the progress is slow. Instead, recognize each small improvement as a step in the right direction. Precepts Exercise. This exercise is based on Seneca's letter to Lucilius, where he uses the analogy of a wool cloth absorbing dye to illustrate the process of adopting Stoic philosophy. Just like it takes time to color a garment, it also takes time to imbue our souls with Stoic precepts. To practice this, keep a number of short phrases ready at hand as reminders of Stoic principles. Here are some examples. Virtue is the only true good. This is a reminder to act with the well-being of society in mind and to use things like money and property in service of the common good. Some things are up to me, others are not up to me. Also known as the dichotomy of control, this reminds us to focus on what we can control, like our judgments and efforts, and to accept the things we cannot control with equanimity. Nothing lasts forever. Use this phrase to remind yourself during tough times that all situations are temporary. It can also inspire us to prioritize what truly matters in life, considering our time is finite. Everything changes. This phrase, dating back to Heraclitus, reminds us that change is the only constant. Accepting this can help us adapt to life's uncertainties and transitions. I will do it, fate permitting. This precept is a reminder that while we can control our intentions and efforts, the outcomes of our actions can be influenced by factors outside our control. Temperance Exercise. This exercise originates from a passage in Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, where he identifies his excessive fondness for certain pleasures of the flesh, such as exotic food, wine, and sex, and acknowledges the need for temperance. The key aim of this exercise is to control strong urges by redefining the objects of our desires in a more objective manner, removing the value judgments that we automatically impose, which are not intrinsically a part of them. For instance, if you're overly fond of wine, remind yourself that what you're consuming is essentially fermented grape juice. The objective isn't to eliminate the desire entirely, but to moderate it. This exercise encourages practicing temperance in a way that prevents us from feeling excessively virtuous, when in reality we aren't. It nudges us towards achieving a balanced perspective on our desires and the pleasures we seek. Remember, the goal here isn't to deny ourselves of all pleasures, but rather to be mindful of them, to not let them control us, and to engage with them in a balanced and moderate manner. The Anger Exercise. This exercise is inspired by Seneca's book, On Anger, which presents anger as a significant concern for the Stoics, even going as far as considering these emotional outbursts to be a form of temporary madness. The goal isn't to try to control anger directly, which is often next to impossible, but rather to disengage from the triggering situation until the anger naturally subsides. Only then, when we've regained our rationality, can we re-engage with the situation and decide on the best course of action. Techniques for disengagement can vary widely, including physical distancing, such as taking a walk or moving to another room. Temporal distancing, like counting to 20 or reciting the alphabet. Or physiological interventions, such as deep breathing. Once composure is regained, we can engage in an exercise of cognitive self-challenge. The aim is to convince our more emotional self that there's nothing to be genuinely angry about. To carry out this exercise, it can be helpful to reflect on a recent episode of anger. Jot down the specifics of the situation in a 2-column table. One column for the object of anger and the other for possible rebuttals. The goal is to prevent similar occurrences in the future by preparing ourselves to deal with potential anger triggers in a more rational and composed manner. By practicing this exercise regularly, we can cultivate better anger management skills and promote healthier reactions to provocative situations. Judgment exercise. This exercise is derived from Epictetus's Enchiridion, a handbook of Stoic ethical advice. He encourages us to make judgments based on actions, not on our subjective interpretation of those actions. Epictetus teaches us to refrain from making negative or critical assumptions about people's actions. Instead, we should simply note the facts of what they are doing, avoiding adding subjective or negative interpretations. For instance, if a person is rushing, instead of concluding that they are impatient or rude, we should simply note that they are moving quickly. This practice helps us avoid quick judgments, leading to a more nuanced understanding of situations and people's behaviors. This can help reduce unnecessary negative emotions like anger, annoyance, or disappointment. Applying this in real-life situations, when we notice someone doing something we might typically judge harshly, we can instead pause and simply observe the action without any added negativity. For instance, if someone is drinking a lot of wine, instead of labeling them negatively, we just acknowledge that they are drinking a lot. This leaves room for understanding and avoids premature and potentially incorrect judgments. These 5 exercises offer a unique perspective on life, pushing us to grow and transform in ways we might not have considered before. By adopting these practices, we can lead a more balanced and stoic life. Thank you for joining us today. Remember, growth is a journey, not a destination. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep growing.